I remember watching the news. They showed an image taken from a helicopter. It looked like the whole city of Los Angeles was burning. My mother told me as she describes what she recalls from the riots that took place on April 29th through May 4th, 1992. The riots occurred in response to the acquittal of 4 white police officers that repeatedly beat Rodney King, an African American male. My mother, Juana Avila, was 20 years old at the time and lived in Los Angeles. In an interview, I asked her about her experience during those 6 days of uprising. On March 3rd, 1991, Rodney King was involved in a high-speed chase and police officers believed he was high on PCP. When the chase was over, 4 police officers brutally beat King with batons and kicked him multiple times. The beating was considered an act of racism and racial profiling, and the chaotic riots were a response to the police brutality. In response to a question about police brutality, my mother stated, "I haven't seen any police brutality myself, but my friend told me that her husband, a Hispanic immigrant, was beat by an officer after being pulled over. The officer didn't have to beat him, the officer was just racist." Weeks after the beating, the 4 officers were tried. My mother only knew what was going on in the trial because the news would sometimes broadcast some parts about it. According to the site from the University of Missouri, Kansas City School of Law, at 3:15 p.m. on April 29, 1992, the clerk announced the jury's verdicts. Less than 2 hours later, Los Angeles was in flames. This was what sparked the tumultuous events that would go on for 6 days. My mom remembers her emotions during the riots, saying she was very afraid during that time. She was scared that her house was going to be burnt down. She called family members and friends to make sure they were okay, because she wanted to know if her loved ones were safe. It all began on Florence and Normandy, where Reginald Denny, a truck driver, was pulled out of his truck and beat by 4 black men. My mom recalled watching this at home. Referring to a video she saw in a news report, she said, "I didn't really see anything myself, just on television. We saw that they beat this one guy real bad. He was white and he was driving not too far from here on Normandy." After that incident, the chaos spread across Los Angeles. She continues by saying, "Koreatown was destroyed. In the news, I saw Asian shop owners take their guns out and start firing at the ones trying to rob their stores. They were having a gunfight. The Koreans were also standing on top of their stores with guns." This photograph, taken during the LA riots, depicts what my mother described during the interview. 5 Asian men appear to be on the rooftop of a store, protecting their business. My mom said the agents took this approach because people were stealing from their stores, setting fire to their businesses, and going crazy. In the interview, my mother talked about her brother-in-law picking her and my father up to take them to his house. My mother explains, "On the way to their house, we saw a couple fires. We were scared someone was going to try to hop on your uncle's truck and attack us. Nothing like that happened though, thank God. We slept on the living room floor and we all just sat there watching the news of everything that was occurring back home. We didn't know what to expect from the riots. We thought it would last a couple weeks. We hoped that the police would put an end to it, but in the news, we didn't see any police officers trying to handle the situation." The California National Guard would then be called in to put a halt to the civil uprising, and on May 4th, 1992, the riots were completely over. Many Los Angeles neighborhoods looked like war zones, such as South Central and Koreatown. Around 50 people died, over 2,000 people were injured, there was $1 billion worth of damages, and about 9,000 people were arrested. The events during those 6 days were unbelievable to many people, including my mother. Over 20 years later, many parts of Los Angeles have been rebuilt. However, victims of the riots, such as Reginald Denny and Fidel Lopez, have not fully recovered, neither physically nor mentally. As you can see in the intense images, the Los Angeles riots were filled with brutal beatings, looting, arson, and overall civil unrest for 6 straight days. All this happened as a result of the predominantly white jury's decision to acquit the 4 police officers of their obvious unjust actions taken towards Rodney King. Although 20 years have passed, police brutality remains a persistent issue, signifying that as a country, we have not overcome racism and racial profiling, most notably in the police department. Thank you for watching.